Hello and welcome to another beautiful edition of Iron Port, the program that has been dedicated to bring Ghana's shipping and maritime industry closer to you. This program is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, GOIL PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link, and the Meridian Port Services. It is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and our media partner is the Business and Financial Times. Viewers, this week's edition of Iron Port will center on the concept of green shipping, but from an African perspective. This comes on the back of the International Green Shipping Conference that was held in Accra, Ghana last week, which is the very first of its kind in the whole continent of Africa. We will take a sneak peek of that particular all-important event. I'll be back to delve into the main discussion. The first International Green Shipping Conference in Africa has been held in Ghana for Africa's maritime stakeholders to discuss how to take advantage of opportunities to become part of the global green transition of the shipping sector. The conference, which saw the participation of the Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, Kitak Lim, brought together thought leaders, experts, and think tanks whose ideas and perspectives will lay the foundation for Africa's gradual transition from fossil fuels to green fuel in maritime transport. The conference was under the auspices of the International Maritime Organization and the Danish Maritime Authority, with the Ghana Maritime Authority as the host organization. Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, Kitak Lim, revealed that this year, the IMO is seeking to introduce an upgraded strategy on the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from ships, which is expected to set the framework for the way forward in support of decarbonizing shipping. He said the IMO will support member states, including developing countries, implement measures to ensure that no one is left behind in the green agenda.
I know that decarbonization presents challenges for many developing countries. At IMO, we are committed to examining and addressing the impact of the measure we adopt to achieve this end. With this in mind, we are also committed to supporting member states to unlock the potential that green shipping presents. I'm confident that African countries stand in a prime position to unlock this potential.
Ghana's Minister for Transport, Kweku Foresiama, said, while Ghana's government embraces the green agenda, there is the need for developing states to be considered.
Developing countries remain challenged with a lack of green transportation infrastructure, which would have ensured a sustainable future for us all. It is imperative, therefore, that the impact of measures on states, including developing countries, and in particular those classified as least developed countries and small island developing countries, should be considered. They should never be left behind.
The Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Thomas Kofi Alonsi, encouraged African states to open themselves up to unlocking potentials in renewable energy.
As the maritime industry forges ahead in its quest to attain a zero-carbon society, the need for cleaner fuels and its associated technologies would also increase significantly and urgently. Africa, however, has the potential to be a major ship energy source, as the continent has vast and untapped renewable resources that position us to benefit from the green transition and maritime decarbonization.
All right, folks, so as you might have observed, climate change has been a mainstay discussion all over the world, and industries all over the world are working hard to ensure that their activities are environmentally sustainable, and this is the same for the shipping industry. Coming on the heels of that particular event that we just witnessed, the Green Shipping Conference, we at Iron Port sought to assess Africa's place in this global agenda. We interacted with the Director in charge of Maritime Services at the Ghana Maritime Authority, Nana Boache Boampong, as well as the Director in charge of Climate Change and Green Transition at the Danish Maritime Authority, Jacob Hogard. Let's take a listen.
I think in recent times there are calls for Africa to join, the global green shipping agenda. Why do you think this has become so imperative?
Okay, so the calls for Africa to join the global green shipping agenda has been there for a while, as you have rightly alluded to. At the IMO currently, there are discussions on the adoption. In fact, a program was adopted in 2018 known as the IMO's Initial Greenhouse Strategy. And in the strategy, it seeks to reduce emissions from ships by 50% in the year 2050 and to net it off to 0% at the turn of the century. Africa, as you know, enjoys a great amount of shipping, and so we would need to join the bandwagon because take it or leave it, whatever decisions that are taken at the global stage would have an impact on the way we do business. And so it is imperative that during the discussions, Africa also goes to table and negotiates and also gets a good deal for itself. Talking about the IMO greenhouse strategy that was adopted in 2018.
Yes.
This year, during this year's meeting, there is a review. It is due for review, and the next couple of months is very crucial for the reviews in that strategy. And so it is imperative that African countries go to the IMO with a common voice and also put on the table the impacts that these things are going to have on the way we do shipping business. And that is why it is important. And that was one of the main things that we took into consideration into convening the Green Shipping Conference that just happened last week. It is just to bring to the fore the importance for Africa to go to table and also present their issues for it to be factored into the review of the IMO's Initial Greenhouse Gas Strategy.
What are your impression or assessment of the just ended conference on green shipping in Africa that's in Accra is, and some of the issues that came up that you think that are worth sharing with our audience?
The conference was a huge success to begin with. We were able to convene about 20 countries from African maritime administrations who attend meetings at IMO and to speak about the opportunities that would avail in terms of the green shipping. What came to light was the fact that we all agreed that there was regulatory uncertainty, as has just been alluded by Jacob from Denmark, and the fact that there is a need to have certainty in the industry, because it is this certainty that would drive investments for ship owners to know which way they are going. And so that was one of the main takeaways. And then for Africans, we realized that, okay, we have a challenge with finances, the unavailability of financial resources to undertake research and development in some of these new areas. Again, the lack of technical and operational capacities in our region is another thing that has been identified. And finally, we were also able to identify the port infrastructure deficiency, which invariably comes with cost. And so we have been able to identify some of these gaps in the African region, and so we are going to look at ways of tackling some of these things.
I just want to find out from you once again some of the things that you are doing by the Danish Maritime Authority in Denmark to ensure that your operations, as far as shipping is concerned, are as green as possible. For which reason you have, taken the lead to lead the charge for, global, green shipping.
Well, first of all, it's important to bear in mind that shipping is global by nature. Therefore, the rules of the game should primarily be globally, and they should be regulated by the IMO. So we try to influence the IMO to be as ambitious as possible. But what can we do from a Danish perspective? Well, the Danish Maritime Authority is in charge of approving new vessels capable of running on zero-emission fuels. So we are here to approve these new designs even though we don't have an existing regulation in an IMO, we come up with innovative solutions and try to influence the design for the future. So that's one way of seeing it. Another way of seeing it is that we have formed public-private partnerships in Denmark on shipping. So we include all the shipping associations, the companies capable of doing innovative designs. We have reforms with the government, discussions on what can be done to promote green shipping also in Denmark. So as a result of these public-private partnerships also in Denmark, the government has come up with a national green tax reform, whereby you tax carbon emissions from not only shipping but also from other industries. Another example is subsidies for the electrification of domestic ferries. So there are things happening also domestically in Denmark.
Are you able to lay a finger or pinpoint a particular reason why Denmark is showing so much interest in Africa in terms of going green in shipping? Is there any particular
generally,
reason?
Yes, I would say that both Africa in general and Ghana in particular are important to Denmark for many reasons, both historically. But we believe that the green transition of shipping can help unlock investments in renewable energy. Because once you know that the demand is there, you will also have more investments in the production of renewable energy. Also, investments in energy efficiency, in infrastructure for zero-emission fuels, these are important first steps that can not only mitigate climate change by reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, but they can also create new green jobs. So that's a good business case, we believe. So that's important that Ghana and Africa accelerate the green transition. It's a good idea in itself for the climate, but also for business.
If Africa can come on an even keel with the developed countries like you, who are already doing so much in terms of green shipping, what do you think are some of the steps that we need to take as a continent to be able to match up?
Well, first of all, you need good framework conditions for private investments in port infrastructure. You need very efficient ports. You need infrastructure capable of providing new alternative fuels. And it takes a long time to be ready to handle these new fuels. So you need bunkering infrastructure. You need onshore power supply to be ready to become part of new green corridors, etc. So that's very important. Framework conditions for private investments, that's essential. But secondly, as Nana rightly said, both government but also government in Ghana but also other governments in Africa need to start influencing the discussions on global regulation at IMO. Because only if you make your voice heard, you can get influence. So that's important that many African countries become more active in the negotiations in IMO.
Going green is a capital-intensive venture, and Africa, we don't have those resources to be able to match our global counterparts, those in the developed world and all that. And I just want to find out from you whether you have an idea of what the International Maritime Organization is doing to support African countries to pace up, and to be able to match up with, the global counterparts in terms of, going green.
Okay, so for the International Maritime Organization, they are basically the global rule-setting body, and whatever regulations that they come out with is based on consensus. And so at discussions in IMO, the views and then the developmental stages of every country is taken into consideration. At the last council, just at the last council meeting in July last year, a fund was established to assist developing countries, including the LDCs and the SIDs, just to participate in ongoing discussions at IMO. That shows that IMO has the will to include and take the views of every member state, and that is a good step. Again, when you look into the IMO's initial greenhouse gases strategy. It has a number of short, medium, and long-term measures. Embedded in the medium-term measures is a market-based measure. Right. And this market-based measure is expected to introduce a fund. And this fund is envisaged to make about $60 billion on a yearly basis. And this money may be championed into assistance to the developing countries, particularly the LDCs and the SIDS. But what is of importance is that Africa must go to the table and table their needs during the discussion stage, so that in coming up with a formula for disbursements, our needs will be taken into consideration, and then a chunk of this money would be allocated to us just to bring us up to speed with our developing counterparts. And so for IMO, I believe they are taking everybody along and just ensuring that we have a just and equitable transition.
All right, viewers, we hope the conversation we just had gave you proper perspective on Africa's place when it comes to the global green shipping agenda. Now let us take a few questions on the subject we have just discussed after we go on break, and we'll be back with more news. My name is Dasebre. In the view of the Danish Maritime Authority, which of the newer energy for vessels best suits the green objective? LNG, hydrogen, or methanol?
Well, LNG is definitely not the future fuel. It can, at the best, a transitional fuel. We believe e-methanol is a good place to start, but in the future, ammonia would probably be a good option. But before we start producing a lot of e-ammonia, we need to have safety measures in place, because we know that ammonia is really poisonous, it's corrosive, so that has to be in place before we can start producing ammonia at scale.
This is Nana in Tema. To be honest, being in the industry, I think it is expensive for ports to take in vessels based on their compliance levels, especially if competitors are not doing the same. Like if Ghana becomes too tight on measures and neighboring ports aren't, we may lose traffic. What does GMA think?
In the view of the Ghana Maritime Authority, shipping is conducted on a level playing field, and so once the regulations have been adopted, they are implemented on the same level, and so I find it difficult for other neighboring countries to go lower on some of these things. There is a no more favorable treatment clause in most of these instruments, and so it will be difficult for anyone to go below the bottom line.
Every now and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Goil Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Goil Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Goil Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with Goil Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, streetlights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Welcome back from the break. Now let us take a look at some happenings within Ghana's shipping and maritime industry. The Center for Maritime Law and Security Africa, working with the Center for Coastal Management of the University of Cape Coast, has launched a Promoting Local Capacity to Address the Destabilizing Impact of Foreign Distant Vessels project. The project, funded by the U.S. State Department and coordinated by the U.S. Embassy in Ghana, is being implemented in 7 countries, namely Benin, Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Senegal, and Mauritania. Ahead of the project implementation, stakeholders in the fisheries governance space, including government officials, industry, non-governmental organizations, academia, and media, have participated in a webinar to discuss the action plan of the project. The team lead at Semlos Africa, Dr. Kamal Dean Ali, explained that this project seems to bring to light the negative effects of foreign distance vessels activities on the fisheries sector and work with key stakeholders, especially governments, to mitigate them.
The language or the message is not that it is entirely negative, but we must address the negative impact of it. What are some of these negative impacts? The foreign distant fishing vessels are in a space where also we have our coastal communities that are also fishing. So the fishery resource is also important for the livelihood of our coastal communities and the economic activity across the sub-region. So you must seek to balance the interests of the distant water fishing vessels as well as that of the local communities. The second thing is that you have to, at every time, balance the economic returns that you get from that, as well as what they also get. It is an investment. Are we getting enough from it? The argument may be that we are either getting inadequate, but the argument also will be that we are perhaps even reaping too much.
Industry, however, also argued that other governance and technical issues pose dire implications on the fisheries sector, thus also needing equal attention.
When it comes to manning the vessel, you need certain expertise, and currently locally we don't have it. So you see the top echelon of the queue coming from China. We see an opportunity because one of the objectives of this project is to look at ownership and then look at investment.
Not just that, we need to also build our financial capacity. The banking sector in Ghana has no clue what happens in the fishing industry. So it's so difficult for us to have any discussion, and especially with the kind of interest rate they charge. You cannot just go to the banks and get loans to go into the fishing industry. They consider that a very high risk area.
Industry experts in Ghana during the week gathered in Accra for a business seminar that sought to deliberate on pertinent developments in the Ghanaian economy and their impact and mitigating factors for German Ghanaian businesses. Organized by the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Ghana, also known as AHK Ghana, the seminar, dubbed Ghana's Economic Outlook for 2023, sought to enlighten individuals and businesses about the outlook of the economy and how businesses can hedge against the current economic challenges Ghana is facing. Subjects for discussion included the new VAT Amendment Act, the reversal of the discount on benchmark values, and the government debt restructuring program. A delegate for the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Ghana, Begdart Hellman, said Ghana's competitive advantage for foreign businesses is waning with time.
From a German point of view, and when I asked my team at the end of January about German companies' interest into Ghana in the beginning of this year, someone told me Ivory Coast and Senegal are picking up. So Ghana is not anymore the only country in Western Africa for German companies to look into.
Now let us turn our attention to the global stage and pick a few international shipping and maritime related news. Danish container shipping major Maersk is donating around 1,000 shipping containers to Turkey to help those in need affected by the massive earthquake that hit Syria and Turkey on February 6. The company said that the move follows close contact with the State Disaster and Emergency Management Authority of Turkey. Maersk noted that containers are already being converted into container houses and that the company plans to be donating more in the coming weeks. South Korean shipbuilder Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering (DSME) has secured a contract to build one liquefied natural gas carrier, which represents the shipbuilder's first order in 2023. Under the contract worth 314.5 billion won, which is equivalent to $248 million, DSME will build the LNG carrier for an undisclosed ship owner in Oceania. According to an exchange filing, the vessel is scheduled for delivery by the end of March 2027. Further information about the carrier's capacity and specifications was not revealed. Last year, DSME exceeded its order target by 16%, winning $10.4 billion worth of orders. DSME and its compatriot shipbuilders secured the largest market share for high-value-added, eco-friendly vessel orders in 2022, bagging 58% of the total ordering tally for the year. Now to our Word of the Day segment that introduces words, jargons, phrases, and terminologies that we often use in this industry so you can get familiar with them. Today's phrase is bareboat charter. Bareboat charter is an arrangement for the chartering or hiring of a vessel whereby no crew or provisions are included as part of the agreement. The charterer provides crew, bunkers, and pays all operational costs. It's now time to take a look at the schedule of vessels that have berthed in the ports of Tema and Takoradi and at the anchorages of both ports and those expected in the coming weeks, plus the Bank of Ghana exchange rates, which you may need to know to clear your cargo with. This is where we end today's edition of Iron Pot. We hope you've been informed and educated. You should always remember that all Iron Pot content can be found on our YouTube channel Eye on Port. Please subscribe, like, and give us feedback. Thank you for watching.